Hi, everybody. This is Lauren Baker from Search Engine Journal. Welcome to today's SEJ webinar brought to you by our partners at PureLinq. With me today, I have Kevin Rowe. Hey, Kevin, how's it going?
Great, man. Great to see you again.
It's always a pleasure. And today we're going to be really talking about something that is kind of overlooked in the world of SEO. It's branded search volume, right? So Kevin's really going to be discussing and presenting on how to drive over 150,000 clicks or visitors or sales in a month with branded search volume and going through some case studies on how to do so. Kevin, would you mind doing just a quick intro, and then I'll do the housekeeping from there?
Sure thing. So I'm Kevin Rowe. I'm the founder and head of PR strategy at PureLinq. I'll give more detail. I'll give some more detail on my background further down the presentation. But you'll also be talking to, or you'll see Brittany, who's the team lead, PR team lead on my on the PureLinq team. She'll be in the breakout room and discussing some studies, the use of research in PR, and how to use studies and research and data to secure links and mentions from high-authority publications.
And I'm really excited about this webinar for a couple of reasons. The main one being is because I think branded search is overlooked, right? From an SEO perspective, I think a lot of people in the world of SEO think of branded search as being like, oh, let's look at unbranded only. Branded is separate, but there's so many opportunities there within the world of branded search, especially like we are a week away right now, Kevin, from Black Friday, Cyber Monday.
Yeah.
And the amount of queries that come in for brand name Black Friday deals, brand name Cyber Monday deals is insane. It's just because like consumers are waiting for discounts to happen or something that really benefits them to happen, so that they may like delay their buying behavior based upon where we are right now. And at the same time, I feel that a lot of what we do in the world of SEO, again, is direct response oriented. So we're thinking, it has to be this unbranded query, it has to be that unbranded query. But today, you're really going to get into brand search volume and the opportunities that are associated there. So I'm really looking forward to one, your presentation, and then two, that breakout room. For everyone that's attending right now, please make sure that in the chat, and I'm sure Jonathan has already prompted you, but in the chat, make sure that you let us know where you're coming in from. Are you coming in from LA, DC, Sao Paulo, Europe, whatever it may be? Let us know. So just type in there where you're coming in from and what you want to learn today. And then we'll put that together accordingly. We do already see Devin is coming in from Houston, Texas. A bunch are coming in already. Then also underneath the presentation, you'll see there are emojis. So as Kevin is presenting today, please make sure to heart, laugh out loud, raise the roof, whatever it may be from an emoji perspective. And then, my boy Kevin will know what's going on there in terms of everyone liking the presentation and everything else. So really excited about today. We do not have any polls or handouts, but from a Q&A perspective, we will be doing a live Q&A after Kevin's done with his presentation. So as Kevin's presenting, make sure that you ask questions within the Q&A scenario, and then we will address those during the Q&A portion of today's webinar. Kevin, I'm going to hand things off to you.
Thanks. And if you see some great questions, as I'm presenting or talking, we can discuss them throughout as well. Let's talk about what like a future state looks like. What's a brand search future state? A future state is what it looks like at some point in the future. And this I feel like is like a trajectory for almost every company. This is a company called Electric E-Bike. They have an e-commerce brand. They sell direct to customer, and they get over 284,000 brand searches a month recently. Like this is like very recent traffic. And I think that, there's a lot of reasons why you would want to increase it. And I think, if you're on this webinar, you probably have a good sense of why. Doing it's a whole other story, right? But there are companies out there doing it. And throughout this presentation, I'll go over some case studies like Electric and how brand also impacts to some degree. I don't think I have like a definitive on this, but I believe I've seen a lot of evidence that suggests that as you drive brand search, legitimate brand search, people searching out your product, your brand, or your website, or content, or experts, you'll start to improve in ranking as you're seen as an expert towards that topic, right? So in this case, e-bikes, right? So Electric, this company has e-bikes, and they started to improve in ranking for the word e-bike, which has well over 100,000 searches a month. There's other benefits, of being able to drive this sort of search, right? So being able to drive an audience to search out your brand or what you would like them to search. And another one's category design. HubSpot did this with inbound marketing. So they really coined the term inbound marketing and did more than coin it. They turned it into an industry, right? That's category design. And driving up demand for it. And you actually don't see this. I don't think a lot of people realize this, but one of the indicators that you have an emerging category, you're creating a category and you're building it is, are they searching out that topic? Are they researching that specific topic in Google or Bing or other ways? Generative AI now, of course. Brand search also gets like significant click-through rate, right? So if you get this traffic, you're going to get typically a vast majority of the traffic. Here's a quick study that I did. I did a brand analysis with one of my researchers, and we analyzed U.S. A lot of these are specifically cybersecurity websites around cybersecurity keywords. And what you're looking at on the x-axis is brand mentions on the bottom, and the U.S. search volume. So there's brand search volume for those companies on the y-axis. The size of the bubble represents the number of keywords they rank in the top 3 positions for. So if you notice the trend is the more brand mentions and the more brand search volume, the more keywords you have a tendency to rank for in the top 3. Now, there's a lot of holes in this. Of course, I'm not going to say this is like definitive study, but I think it's an indicator. I think it highlights some good points, right? That open up more questions for exploration and testing. So I'm going to dissect a few case studies, but I'm also going to talk about how I've experimented with driving brand search, right? How I've strategically used video and podcasts and some content to drive people to search out brand categories, topics for new categories, and then also brand as well, right? And then I'm going to dive into some case studies, some like really successful case studies I find are amazing. One such thing is on e-commerce using PR plus affiliate marketing to increase brand search. Another, like using podcasts and videos to increase brand search. I'm surprised that like nobody really thinks about this. There's not a lot of talk about like how you can drive audience behavior with podcasts and video, right? And honestly, it's one of the most impactful media aside from press. Press has its own unique application there too. And then I'm going to dive into new market category, right? So how a few examples of how some companies develop a new market category and drove domain for that. But who am I? Who's this guy who knows and should be talking about that, right? Who the hell is Kevin Rowe? I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've founded 10 plus companies, 3 in SEO and PR. I had a PR strategy right now at PureLinq. I'm obsessed with audience search behavior. That's one thing I research pretty heavily. Integrated Marcom professional and data journalist. I like to think of myself as a data journalist of sorts. I'm not the best journalist at all, but I like to tell stories with data. And I've kind of built a company around that as well. Working on companies with like Teneo, Coca-Cola, Siemens, VMware. Some of my content has been, published obviously in Search Engine Journal and Fast Company and Forbes. And so I do think some people trust what that I know what I'm talking about in this space, around audience research and integrated Marcom. And then how SEO and PR integrate together, right? So that's, it seems like I focus on a lot of different things, but all these are pretty interconnected. And PureLinq, PureLinq as a company, I'm not going to talk about it too much, but PureLinq, we develop these PR research reports to help you secure media coverage. So we do studies with public data or surveys or unique research, create a blog article for you, visualizing the data, and use that to secure media coverage. That is 90% of what we do today, and you'd be surprised how well it works, because this data just suggests that journalists love data, right? Journalists want data. 68% of journalists want data in their pitches, and that's why PureLinq's been so successful. We offer services, audience research, a digital PR link building, or for SEO, and data journalism as a service. We also, I'll be doing some additional training. So audience research for SEO. I've noticed, I think there's not a lot of people that really understand audience research in the SEO space and how to identify and connect with audiences and their behavior online. I'll be giving some training on this. You can scan this QR code, sign up, where we'll go through audience profiles, analyzing search behavior patterns, and analyzing how to analyze triggers, like what's driving the patterns. And we'll even go through some, like, we'll analyze some patterns throughout this presentation, as I go into these deep dives. So I know I might be moving fast, but talk about methodology really quick and what I'm doing. First off, select brand phrase. What I like to do is find a brand, right? So like, as we're analyzing some of these, brand traffic case studies, first, you got to find out what phrase people use, right? So brand, you'd be surprised. People search for brand names in a lot of variations, a lot of different ways, right? So this one, for example, Electric XP 3.0, is one of the brand names for the electric e-bike brand. This one gets 33,000 searches a month just for the main keyword. And then some of the products get 12K searches a month. So, part of the analyzing and, when you want to really understand how people are driving brand search, you got to figure out exactly what people are searching for. Next, identify patterns. Google Trends is a great tool to help you understand search patterns. Search goes way beyond that now. There's search in TikTok and social and, Amazon. There's all kinds of search now. But Google Trends, this is a chart from Google Trends using a tool called Glimps, Glimps. Thought there was an E at the end. I think there's an E at the end. And that'll help you identify patterns and spikes to figure out what's going on, what the audience is doing here. And then lastly, you got to analyze the source. So what's driving these patterns, right? One tool you can use now is Grok. Grok is XAI, X Twitter's AI tool, and it has direct access to Twitter's feed, X's feed. So that means you can actually ask it questions about news stories. And you can actually analyze these patterns. So what you can do is look at those patterns, look at these patterns, look at the dates, and start to use Grok to help you understand the stories and the messaging that happened during those dates, right? And these are some examples of what I've done with that. You can also use Ahref and ChatGPT together to analyze brand engagement. So one thing, Ahref has a tool called Content Explorer. I haven't found anything actually much better for the price, but if you search it out, it'll give you a list of media, media articles that mention your brand, and a great little chart there that shows change over time, right? So you can export that, and then what I do is I import it to ChatGPT. So this is at least on the 4.0 version, you can upload files. It's not great for analysis. There's other tools, better for analysis, but ChatGPT just allows you to upload bigger files. And then obviously you can probably use Gemini as well, just through spreadsheets and Google Sheets. But this is helpful to get through a lot of data, analyze it and identify spikes, changes in the media. So what's useful about Content Explorer is it will give you a dates that media was published. So if something was published, in 2020, it'll give you dates that at least Ahrefs found the information. You'll be able to get through a lot of audience analysis, understanding their behavior and why they're taking the action they did with this methodology. So let's jump into some case studies. So PR without content. this company does no content marketing, and honestly, I'm not always pro content marketing, especially with e-com. Obviously, I don't think you need it to rank for commercial terms, but electric e-bike. We'll look at them, and you'll see they actually, again, they end up increasing the brand search volume. So they have search in here for, even the word electric has 40.5 thousand searches a month. You can also see they ended up improving. I showed this earlier, but they ended up improving to position 1 for the word e-bike with 90,000 searches a month. You can see that on your screen as well. And then their brand traffic grew so pretty significantly. And when I dove into what you're looking at right here is it's actually hard to get these together, but average organic traffic, count of brand mentions, and number of referring domains. I don't think this is a definitive analysis, but I like to this correlation I think is pretty significant in terms of like brand mentions and organic traffic, the growth of brand mentions over time, which is the pink with that big spike, right? The purple chart with that big spike. And then the referring domains is the light pink line. And then the dark blue line is average organic traffic. But what you can't see is that brand mentions and media coverage and gaining more media coverage does seem to also correlate with organic traffic growth totally. So like a lot of it is I hate to say it, they did build brand. So how did they do it? First off, messaging, I'll just quickly overview it. Low cost e-bike, used a lot of affiliate, affiliate sponsored posts featured. Timing was really great because it was around the pandemic. So like when I dove into Grok, what Grok provided me was like information about like their pricing, the messaging they had around pricing. It would have taken me a long time to research this, by the way. I was able to find this in a few minutes with Grok. Right. You have to play with the prompts a little bit and then prove, validate what it's saying. But, it cuts down on time quite a bit. But this with Grok, it told me, basically they were launching new models, they were doing new product launches, and they were doing it with a low cost. Right after the pandemic came, when everyone wanted to, everyone really wanted to be healthier, right? They also didn't want to be on public transportation as much, potentially. E-bikes were a really great option and bring down the cost, right? That creates a storm for e-bike brands and e-bike companies. I also dove in and did some analysis with the process I had before. These are, again, the key insights I had was immediate spikes often follow product launches or prominent reviews in major publications. I did validate this. So product launches always get brand searches, right? You can get a lot more media coverage that way. Continuous media mentions. I think that's actually a really important one. I continuously see this. A lot of people call it brand building. But the way these guys did it was, I guess you call it brand building, but it was very strategic. It wasn't like, just building a brand for the sake of building a brand. They focused on like high authority publications, which led to larger spikes in traffic. So as they got like a Forbes or something, led to a larger spike in traffic. Then there's seasonal demand and social proof and tons of user reviews. That's a lot of analysis in a very, very, short little snippet. But then I validated a lot of it. So I started to go through and analyze the media coverage. As you can see, here's a Forbes article about it. I also found affiliate was huge for them. They did a ton of affiliate sponsored posts. Affiliate sponsored posts drive brand search. If you take one thing away from this presentation, try some affiliate sponsored articles to drive brand search. And if you're clever about it, you can do it. Or drive search for a topic. Then bear with me 1 second. So on top of that, like they got a lot of Verge articles, and they also got some like electric bike articles, which are like e-bike websites. They're the bikes dedicated to e-bikes, or bikes websites dedicated to like electric vehicles, right? They got a ton of coverage on that, like articles covering that. And then links in the articles were like helpful as well. Obviously, like, they were getting links, which could have also helped with the brand, the rankings and things like that. But the brand mentions for sure were the component, the messaging, right? There's your feature articles about the company was which really helped to drive the brand search volume. So another one is podcasts and videos. I think it's very greatly overlooked. And this is search volume for the term DNA printer. So there was a weird spike I found on Google Trends where there was massive search volume for the word DNA printer. It came up once, and then again there was a little spike here at the end. So you can see where there's this icon that's Joe Rogan. So a Joe Rogan podcast, I dug it up on December 19th, around this, just before the spike. Joe Rogan launched a podcast that had a section talking about DNA printers. Which was kind of interesting. Now you don't need to get on like the top podcasts to drive search like this, but people are more engaged in podcasts and with video. And, I've found that when you're talking to somebody and directing them, they have a tendency to take that action.
A lot of people look at that and say, well, how is that any different than a Google search? Because if you Google, like, how do I make napalm or whatever, you can find certain pages that will tell you, that thing. What's different is that the AI is like an interactive tutor. Think about it as we're moving from the textbook era to the interactive, super smart tutor era. So you've probably seen the demo of when they launched GPT-4, the famous example was they took a photo of their refrigerator, what's in their fridge, and they say, what are the recipes of food I can make with the...
Well, I won't go too deep into the video, but like you can see, it's just a regular conversation. And they just bring up the idea of DNA printers. What is a DNA printer? And start discussing it. And obviously there was a video dedicated to it that showed on YouTube as well. But this is, I think, if there's a lot of ways to do this, to drive this search volume with podcasts and videos and YouTube. But I will say that you should start experimenting with that now for sure.
The stuff, a lot of people will look at that and say, well, how is that any different than a Google?
Next, I want to get into case study and examples of how I've done this as well, but creating a new category, driving search for a new category, a topic, an idea, right? So there's this company called SalesSoft, and SalesSoft was a company called SalesSoft was a company called Drift at one point. And Drift, what they did was they created a category called conversational marketing. And with conversational marketing, let me just bring this right up. I'm gonna find something really here. There we go. Bear with me 1 minute.
No problem.
There we go. Great. So, sorry, I'm having some screen issues. Bear with me 1 minute. So I'm just reloading my browser. Good. So while I'm doing that right now, we'll talk about Drift a little bit. So just bear with me while I'm doing this. All right, actually should be good. Slideshow, had to reorder some things. All right, so Drift. Drift launched. So Drift was a chat bot, right? So this was a chat tool that you embedded into your website. Now everyone sees those little chat tools. So that chat tool follows you around your website. There's this idea of conversational marketing. That's a new category, right? That somebody drove up the idea or started the idea of conversational marketing. And I started to dig into conversational marketing. I found this increasing search interest over time worldwide using Google Trends again. And so I found that Drift actually launched and started the idea of conversational marketing before 2016. And then come just before this, after the spike and the decline you see, they actually sold and started to focus on enterprise. So they moved away from driving up demand for it, but there's still interest in conversational marketing. This was one of the most, aside from, I'd say, inbound marketing, I think with HubSpot, is one of the most impressive launches of and use of a category to build a company and sell the product. And the benefit's this, like if you rank for the word conversational marketing, you're the only site that ranks for it, right? Like what is conversational marketing by Drift? This is more of a recent search examples, but originally when they started, they were the only one that ranked for this word. So as search volume increased, these guys were ranked number one. They were everywhere for it. So people just started to obviously use Drift as the only solution for it, right? They since have sold to a company called SalesSoft and converted to a company called SalesSoft. If you ever did try to Google the company, but that's success right there. I think how they did it was interesting. When I really started to dig into it, I just quickly used Grok too to analyze this case study, but I've been digging into them and how they've done it for a pretty long time. But just to show you how to use Grok to do this media analysis, I quickly looked up, what was the conversation, the spell on Twitter about Drift and conversational marketing. One of the things they talked about was case studies and success stories. That got me kind of interested because, intuitively I already knew that case studies drive brand search. I knew that case studies are a key component to, building a business and convincing customers that you have, it's a really important part of the customer journey, right? I think they actually use case studies to really, very strongly by working directly with customers, coming up with really strong case studies too, having it published on client's website, and then submitting it out to other publications too. So they would take the case study, and these case studies, as you would think, are metric based. I've had a lot of conversations with people about case studies and how to use those to drive audience engagement. And I think that your title should summarize exactly, it should be this title right here shows exactly how you should be trying to connect or what the study should be about. And a lot of it should be change. What change have you created for somebody, right? And that change can take a lot of different, different paths, of course. But this Pure Storage one was how Pure Storage increased meetings by 4.8x year over year with Drift. Now that is, again, it's a tool, the conversational tool, conversational marketing tool. Now by using conversations, a conversational tool that increased leads 4.8% year over year, or a 4x, 5x really, years a year. So these case studies, again, distributing those case studies, I think, pretty aggressively on social. Now you can do a lot more social than I think before they did it in 2016. I think, now social is I think much more active. That's also a good place to do it. Using it to, securing media coverage, press coverage, feature articles about your case studies is another way I've seen. I've also seen these guys gain a lot of attention on that, right? So if you want to grow a category, you need an audience talking about it. You really need to understand your audience. You need that audience talking. It's not you talking and saying things. It's your audience. It's your customer base talking, right? It's this group has a shared problem, talking about their problem. Here's another example of how to drive brand search with a podcast and video. So I was experimenting. I do a lot of webinars and podcasts and things. But I've been experimenting with how I say things, right? How I say things to drive brand search, how I can direct somebody to take action. And I was like, how do I measure that, right? Well, obviously, brand search was the for me at the time. I did this analysis maybe well over a year ago. I just wanted to start experimenting, see, all right, how can I get people to start to search out a brand? So I created some new topics. I started to coin some phrases. I didn't take this full on as trying to create a new category, but I wanted to show that you can create these little spikes, in brand search traffic, or even getting people to search for specific phrases that only you rank for. And here's the one I did. So like PR topic tour. So I created a little guide called What is a PR topic tour? And I got people to search for the word PR topic tour. There was nobody else that ranked for that. Nobody really talked about it. They started to a little bit, but it's really my LinkedIn posts and then an article on PureLinq about that. So I use some videos to talk about how PR topic tours work, how you can use them to drive more brand search, because you use them to drive brand search, right? So you do a tour about a specific topic, and you can use it to drive up category demand as well. But I've been experimenting with that quite a bit, and that seems to actually help. There's also smaller categories you can find that are coming up, like audience research tools. This is a category I find super interesting. Like software categories. There's these little software categories that have a tendency to be growing. You can also ride the wave on, or start to analyze even like a little bit deeper, figure out why this is increasing, and then maybe there's a way to capitalize on it, right? So if there's a new trend emerging, you can analyze media coverage to do that. And I think Drift created the category, but there's also categories you can create, you can find. So again, Kevin Rowe, you can find me on LinkedIn. This is a QR code on the left. You can scan for me on LinkedIn. I'm on X, Kevin__ Kevin Rowe, or you can email PureLinq if you want as well. About information, if you want information about digital PR for SEO or audience analysis.
Excellent. Thank you, Kevin. We had a lot of questions come in during your presentation, and we'll be launching the breakout room right now. But some of the key questions that came in were very industry specific. So, for example, what would you recommend for a healthcare company in the mental health or addiction treatment area to infiltrate the health space in general from a search volume perspective?
You said mental health?
Health or perhaps mental health. Yeah.
Well, health or mental health. So I would look for a trending problem. So I would start out, looking for some sort of trending problem. Things people are talking about. Like, let's say in health, let's say in mental health, neurodivergence is kind of like an important topic, right? ADHD, et cetera, and everything else. And so, if you have something that helps solve that problem in a unique way, maybe there's a new category you can create there. I always think find a way to create a new category. I know it's hard in that space; it's super regulated. It's not always possible to do, but that's possibly an option. I would also just start to use a tool called Exploding Topics. Go in there, see if you can find a trend, any sort of like trending, topic related to your industry. And you can probably, trends is what matters most. Try to find keywords that are trending up, right? There's behavior, positive behavior, growing behavior, not declining behavior.
Is it Exploding Topics?
Exploding Topics. It's a great little tool for identifying trends, trying to find topic ideas.
Awesome.
I do a lot. I'll say this: I do a lot. So I do a lot in healthcare, pharmaceutical, medical device, HCP targeting to healthcare service provider targeting, and I know it can sometimes it can be really hard in this area to get on interesting trending stuff. One way around regulations, if you're overly regulated or you can't get through compliance or something like that. One thing to do is talk about talk about a topic and how people are interested in that topic. It's kind of like a workaround. So find a trending topic and just talk about how people are interested in that specific topic. And you can actually get some health related, how people are interested. For example, we just did something on, what was it? epidurals and like epidurals and epiduriologists. I forgot the name for some reason. Somebody's gonna call me stupid for that, but we found that there's a lot of job searches and growing job searches for these people who do epidurals, right? Like there's an increasing demand for the jobs, but like a decreasing number of job openings or something like that. But you can find data like that. You'd be surprised how you can just start digging down holes and finding interesting like keyword ideas and topics that are trending. You're looking for audiences. You're not necessarily looking for keywords. Remember that you're looking for people and groups of people. Keywords happen to indicate what they're interested in. You still need to understand their intent, their behavior.
One question that came in from Eric was, Electric Bikes is more of a B2C company.
Yeah.
And do you think that opportunities exist with the affiliates in B2B or B2C, or what is the big focus on there?
If you want to drive brand search in B2B, it's easier. I do a lot of that, specific like testing with that. So if you want a business to take action, even if it's like a B2B e-com or something like that, I think video is a really good way to do that. So YouTube videos, people are always looking to like solve the problem, and you need to identify what that problem is, right? And find a growing problem. That's all. Like every B2B person has a freaking problem. Everyone has a problem, right? We all have problems. Our business have a problem. I have a problem today. You have a problem tomorrow. We all have problems. So in B2B, our problems are very straightforward. I need to make more money. I need to, operationalize. I need to find a new market. I need to, you know what I mean? If it's an industrial audience, it's different. They sometimes just want to they want more leads, maybe. I don't know, whatever your business is. But in the B2B space, even if you have like a very small number, as a matter of fact, category design into B2B, the one I said about Drift, the case study for Drift was all B2B. They actually ended up focusing on enterprise clients later on and sold to Salesforce for an ungodly amount of money. And that was all B2B. They created a new category. Look at Drift, analyze how Drift did it, and then try to replicate something like that.
Wow.
Very cool. Next question that comes in is that, what are your thoughts on like podcast booking? So podcasts, obviously, we're doing right now, can increase brand inquiries. What are your thoughts on booking with like services like such as Podcast or Podmatch and Matchmaker and other services?
Yeah, so I don't know them directly. I'm not going to comment on them, but I wouldn't use booking services like that. We do bookings as far as our PR goes to help drive. We look for bookings for a number of reasons, but what I would do is use a thing called Listen Notes. Listen Notes is like it's a cool little software to help you find some podcasts. You can search by keyword, by episode, or whatnot. Find some influencers that that are similar to what you would talk about. Go find podcasts that they've been on, and then just pitch yourself to appear on those podcasts. Do not fucking book an agency to do this. Or not an agency. A good agency can do great. Don't use one of those low quality booking services. What ends up happening is they book you on these low quality podcasts. They get no traffic. They initially get the spike. The podcast gets the spike, and then they die off. And you get booked on those things. You don't want those, and they're hard to measure. So instead of doing that, go find podcasts with people you know. There's some good tools out there on finding podcasts and where your audience is, might be. Listen Notes is a good one, but the technique I just showed you, if you did that, you will not exhaust your podcast list for a good year.
Yeah, and those booking services, like honestly, they spam us on a daily basis, right? They're like, oh, we have this person, we have that person, we have this person. It's all like a mass component versus quality component, and
messaging. Yeah. You need the right messaging, and you need the right podcast for the message that you have at the time. Because an audience and influence audience behavior is all about messaging at the right time. And is that the right podcast for your messaging at that fucking time?
Yeah, exactly. So going back to electric bikes, e-bikes, it's very B2C. Do you think there's opportunities with affiliates in the B2B space? If so, B2B or tech B2B or whatever it may be when it comes to electric bikes.
Yep, that's the one we just went over. But look at Drift. Yeah, look at the Drift case study.
And what would you recommend for a healthcare company, whether it be mental health or addiction treatment or psychiatry, to infiltrate the health space in general?
So rehab in the addiction space is interesting. So if you're national, local, we can talk about like the addiction space. I've done a lot there. So like, I imagine you have locations, depends on where you are and, the regulations and how you get reimbursed. Like Florida is different than Northeast. That's weird. But like, I think people are, I think your best bet when it comes to that a lot, I'm thinking about the audience there, and the audience there, when you're, when they're, you're an addict or something, and you're in the mindset that you need to help right now, you're pretty much just going to look for it at that moment, the moment you're in it, right? You kind of got to be in front of them when they're doing it. I don't know if anybody's really thinking about it, maybe, but, I think that, a lot of it comes down to education and addiction and helping to educate people, to understand that they do have a problem. So like, I think when you're in that space, education of that topic is really important. I think there's a lot of room for like innovation in addiction and addiction space, to be honest. Whether it's methodology, whether it's through, locate, well, I don't know. There's just technology. I mean, it could be anything, medicine, it could be understanding it better. I think there's, I think when it comes down to understanding the problems, again, I don't understand addiction problems completely, but like, I would really look into like, what's a growing problem right now in the addiction space where people are actively talking about it. You can, again, use the Exploding Topics tool. There's healthcare and addiction section. You can start to explore that. They even have a healthcare section, actually. You can type in some keywords and do, explore some topics there, but, you can type in some keywords. You can find some default sections like healthcare and I think pharmaceutical and things like that. That'll help you find some topics, but everything comes down to problem. Like whenever you want to find a topic or something to talk about or an audience, it comes down to you're really trying to find an audience. Keyword research is I want to find an audience who's searching for something, right? So I think it comes down to what are those problems? Start there. In the addiction space, here's what I would do. I would look if you had a facility or something like that, I would look into where has the increase in bookings been in the last year, right? Or any sort of physician. Like what if the cases and over the last year, what has been the, are you seeing this like the ideal customer coming in? And then start to explore their problems. I mean, what it comes down to is that customer, their problem set, your current customer base or your ideal customer profile and what their problems are, and start to dig into their behavior.
Very good. Very good. Next question that comes across is, would you recommend creating content specifically about your brand and pushing that content on all marketing channels, whether it be LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever it may be? Like, where should you focus on the promotion of the brand content and where should you not?
So, technically, like a feature article ideally, like if you want to drive brand search, a feature article in a major publication is going to be great, right? So if it's like a feature article that says this company solves this problem, that is your ideal scenario. If it's Forbes or a Fast Company or TechCrunch, depending on the type of product, company, your audience, whatever, feature articles are ideal. Like, it'd be great to get those done. but I think, if underneath feature articles, I think, which will be about the brand, I'd like to have a section about the brand. Like if you can get an article to talk about like a listicle. So those are great, like little list articles. So which one? The electric bike one I talked about, they had some Forbes. If anyone's ever, I'm sure everyone knows about the Forbes. Where that's the section of the website just got de-indexed today or something. I don't know if you've been following that, Lauren, but like
Not yet today. No, no. But I know what's happened with the Forbes listicles content.
yeah,
It took a big dive, and then it kind of made it a little bit of a comeback earlier in the week. So if it was listed, if it was DNX today, that would be really interesting.
man, yeah, but yeah, there's like a whole thing like they were de-indexed today. If you Google right now, actually, if you go out and Google Forbes Advisor, it doesn't show up anywhere. That was the name of the section. It used to show up everywhere. Now you can't get it. You'll see a Glenn Gabe tweet show up instead.
Oh my god!
Yeah, you see that?
Yeah, it's amazing. No, I haven't seen it today. I've been a little bit distracted earlier in the morning, but to your point, I'm not seeing anything. When I search for Forbes advisors, Forbes advisors, nothing comes up. Right? It's just like Forbes.com, and then LinkedIn, and then Twitter. So I'll dive deeper into this.
It seemed like it looked. I don't know. It looks like I think I heard somebody say they de-indexed this. I didn't look into it, but that's what I thought I heard.
Insane. Insane. And along with growing branded searches and improving search tools for session of your brand, it seems like simply improving your brand's exposure, awareness, and recognition can help drive clicks from SERPs, potentially signaling that people prefer your brand over other competitors and helping to increase visibility in your products/services. What else can brands do or e-commerce companies do to better kind of protect their brand equity, increase the trustworthiness of their brand, etc., beyond the traditional just building up your site, doing this, doing that, getting SKU markup for doctors, etc., whatever it may be, right? So how can brands really build their trust with Google, especially after this November core update, and to better compete in the marketplace?
So for e-commerce, I don't recommend content like getting involved in that whole game where you write content and articles and try to don't bother. I don't think it's. What I think is customer testimonials, customer reviews, getting customers to share your brand information. If you can get that engine started, you basically search engines should be a sustainable source of revenue for everybody. Right? It shouldn't just be like you need to rank tomorrow to get a keyword and then you're going to die off. You can turn into it's a sustainable revenue stream. So I think that with search, with e-commerce, I think the affiliates, for electric, just looking at electric and what they did, the affiliate articles, I think is a good way to get yourself into a conversation quickly. If you're B2B, sometimes bylines, I experiment with bylines to see if I can drive traffic and stuff with it and drive interest in a certain topic. If I hit a byline or if I hit a topic and I talk about it for 3 months, I can usually get somebody interested in it. Maybe not a lot of people, but small amount. So that's kind of what you're looking to do. So I think the affiliate articles, don't just look at those as a source of revenue. If you are doing affiliate marketing, look at it as a source of brand and getting your brand out there and what the articles actually say are really important. And then I think any announcements you might have, like revenue announcements or growth announcements. If you're on a growth cycle, those are always a great way to find and secure some media coverage. If you're like most e-commerce, you're like, I need a link directly to my category page that needs to rank for my commercial keyword. Don't bother. You can do that too, but which I think there's value in it. But you're not, I think in a lot of shopping, also the discount codes. I used to do a lot with shopper feeds, and then distributing your product like with discount codes across a bunch of different shopping sites. Like it used to be huge. It's less so now, but those actually have helped in driving some brand search as well. A little bit, but I don't think it's a matter of like building up yourself in an audience. I disagree with this. Okay. I completely freaking disagree with this, which is find an audience and then start to engage, like build yourself up with them. No, you're trying to solve a problem and you want to find a bunch of people whose problem you solved, right? You don't need to build, an audience and try to engage with them and build a relationship. You just need to go out and find somebody who needs what you have and has a problem that you have. Start to like, so I'm not a fan of building brand for the sake of like being part of the conversation, which would be, that would mean like, expert commentary or doing more social. But what I think I would rather do is just get listed in as many listicle articles out there as possible, list my products, right? I would want to like roundups. I would want any feature articles about my company, that how I've solved the problem for a specific audience or group, right? That's number one. And then I want podcasts talking about me, what we've done, like why we've solved the problem. So really, find a problem you solve and talk about it. I guarantee like a big problem, not like a stupid problem, but good problems.
Yeah, it is a big problem. And also at the same time, it's what are your feelings on, so you've made that initial SEO/search oriented sale. But then one of the obvious options is subscribe and save or something similar, like from a subscription perspective. How do you take the content, the learning, everything else, and transcribe that into someone that's going to be a long-term customer as opposed to the one-term customer?
I honestly think it just comes down to, did you satisfy the problem they had? And was the problem big enough and important enough? Like, right. So it's like, that's number one. Did you solve their problem? So basically, if you're scaling, if you're in a situation where you're trying to find a new market category, or exploring a new geographic or category or something, market or category, something like that, you want to test it out. And you're spraying and just trying to find like an audience that really, resonates, to find market fit, kind of product market fit. What I would do is, I think, I don't know, that like, I would probably like,
Yeah.
I would, if you're trying to find product, there's so many different situations where I'm stalling on the answer, like product, like if it's a new market or all that. But if I think if like in a situation where you're trying to find a new audience, which why don't we stick to that for a while? I would find like people who are screaming about your product. So if you had a customer come in and they're like, oh, this solves all my problems, and then you took that away from them and they were like, I need this, I need it back. Find more of them. And then tell that story and share that with other people who have that same problem. Do that. Keep doing that. Just repeat it. Raise your teams.
That's good. I think in the world of SEO too, like that's very overlooked. Like a lot of the e-com companies that I work with, they'll focus very primarily on like Yahoo reviews, this and that, like whatever the stars are, and then bringing that back into like what the personal experience is, right? Because I think a lot of the third-party companies do a very, very good job of consolidating the review process, turning it into ratings or whatever it may be. But I can look at something that's 4.5 stars, or I can look at something where I read someone's review, and that review is very personal to me. And that's what leads to me making a purchase, right? And I think we're almost at the point where the peer engagement and peer recognition doesn't have the same value as it did a year or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's a very good point. Like, what can we do to make sure that the one-time purchaser continues, and at the same time, I may select the subscribe and save. I may select this because based upon whoever has found that product makes me want to enjoy it more type thing. So it's a good point.
Yeah. I think you just keep telling those stories. Like the whole idea of enablement, I don't think is discussed enough, but like enabling people to tell their own story. But the idea of enablement, I think, is like really underrated in e-commerce, but extremely important.
Kevin, it's been a great hour or so. Where can people find you online?
You can go to PureLinq.com, PureLinq.com. You can also find me on Twitter. I'm starting to use that more in the last year or so. So @ Kevin Rowe, or get at me on LinkedIn.
Fabulous. We love LinkedIn. We love Twitter. We love all of the above. Email, obviously. So thank you very much for spending the time with us today and the SEJ team to go over all of this. I really enjoyed this, not just because of because everything we've done in the past has been very link building, authority building perspective. This is really taking that step beyond, right? It's making sure that the brand query or the brand interest is not just like it's not you fulfilling what people are looking for. It's you more than fulfilling what's looking for, right? It's making sure that your brand is 100% what the user at the end of the day is looking for. And at the end of the day, that could be the difference between making a purchase on Amazon or your site, or Walmart or your site, or a competitor on your site, which all of those make the, like in terms of a profit margin, it's all the difference in the world. So thanks again. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, brother.
Cheers. All right.
Cheers. Bye.
Here.